Welcome to Hope for Her, the podcast, a place for women seeking hope, inspiration, and empowerment. My name is Amy Nelson, and I will be your host on a journey of encouragement and enlightenment, reminding you that no matter where you are, there is hope for you. Let's dive into the program. Hey, hey, hey. Happy Monday, Miss Marsha.
Happy Monday, Miss Amy.
How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a good day. I got a
Good.
lot of rest this weekend.
I like that song. I'm talking about a good day. Yeah. So you
Good day. That's a wake up song now. So I have it programmed on my Alexa. I say, "Good morning, Alexa," and then it starts to play everything. And that's my number one song.
listen, that is me, the kids, my grandchildren. That's our hype music right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The artist is Forrest Frank. Good day. It's a
Yes.
good song.
So listen, friends, family, if you're out there, you need something to kind of put you in the mood of having a good day, check him out. It's all good things. Listen, Miss Marsha, this is season 1, episode 12.
Technically, it's going to be our last episode for this
Oh,
season. We'll start season 2 shortly. However, it'll not really our last episode. It's our last episode together.
yes. As things move on, the busy Miss Marsha Tate, I'll pop on and I'll kind of do some things here and there just to give a couple of updates and come on and give some encouragement as we prepare for the next season because we've got some exciting things coming, right, Miss Marsha?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, right now, we want to say welcome to you. If you are new here, you're just now joining us. Listen, welcome to Hope for Her, the podcast. This is where we talk all things encouragement, all things hope, enlightenment. And listen, my name is Amy Nelson. I am your host, and this is my amazing co host, Miss Marsha Tate. So we are so glad that you are here. Well, Miss Marsha, Sunday is going to be a pretty important day for America. If I'm not mistaken, it is one of the top holidays where restaurants are full, packed out, standing room only.
It is the day that you do not go to a restaurant if you value your time.
Yes. And if you don't want to be annoyed and you want to continue to be a happy mama,
Yes.
stay away as much as you can. So Sunday is going to be the most incredible time. It's going to be Mother's Day. And that's why we wanted to talk something important here today. And we wanted to talk the importance of motherhood. And something I kind of wanted to put out there is I didn't want motherhood to be launched or locked into the form of if you were just saying, "Oh, well, I didn't birth a baby," but yet and still you're encouraging young girls, you're encouraging young people, you're speaking into their lives. I've learned to encapsulate it, Marcia, into whether you're an aunt, a grandma, a auntie, cousin, sister, a
A
mentor.
bonus mom.
Yes, you're a bonus mom. You're impacting the lives of young people. Then we celebrate you today. That's what we're going to do here. And we're going to be talking about motherhood as a mission,
Yes. It is
right?
definitely a mission.
Listen, and whenever I use that term, I automatically think of the show Mission Impossible. You know, with
Mm, 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 mm,
mm,
mm,
mm,
mm.
mm, mm. Listen, and he says to the guy, he says, should you choose to accept the mission?
Yes.
Listen, because a lot of people can get the invitation. It doesn't mean that they accept the mission of motherhood because it's not something that should be taken lightly. It's full of
Correct.
joy, it's full of challenges, pains, but it's also something that will grow and develop us, isn't it, Miss Marcia?
Absolutely. If you don't know who you are before you have a kid, those kids will definitely show you.
Listen, show you, correct you, hold you accountable,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
But you said yeah, that part. And one of the scriptures that I think comes alongside of it as we, love all things faith here is Proverbs 31, verses 25 through 31, where it talks about she is clothed in strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days of to come. She speaks of with wisdom in her mouth. Those are some of the things that as we walk through life, as we walk through faith, being a mom, those are things that we can pass down to our children is how are we speaking? How are we managing our time? Because whether we want to believe it or not, they're watching.
Absolutely. What his pastor used to say, some things are caught and other things are no, some things are taught and other things are caught. And I
Very,
find it's the things that are caught that they remember the most and that they hold dear.
Yes, yes.
You know?
Because I tell people, you can say what you want to say all day long. The bottom line is they're watching our behavior.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Marsha, as a mother yourself, let me ask you, how do you find strength and grace in the midst of your daily demands of being a mom, in the midst of motherhood, in the trenches of
Through prayer.
it?
A constant prayer. And it's like, I think that God gives you certain things that you feel are like blessings and it's like a win. But the reality is it's the thing that'll keep you definitely in prayer the most because you want to make sure that you're managing the things that God gives you properly. And if you like a job is one thing, like finances, a house, things like that. But with people,
Come on.
little people that you're responsible for that will then grow up to manage other people, like you want to make sure that if you don't manage anything else well, you manage the people that he puts you in charge of well.
Yeah.
So
Part little people that we're managing. And I think where it talked about the strength and the grace,
mhm.
it takes a lot of strength. You know, the early days when you just brought the baby home and you're just there on your lap and you can hold them and you can pretty much control their environment. You control what they eat, who they're around.
And you have all these expectations for this little person until they start to talk back to you and you realize that they gonna tell you about yourself.
Yes. And I think
Like,
I don't like is when they talk back, but they start sounding like me.
oh my gosh.
Mm.
Yeah. And it's always the younger ones.
Yeah, that part right there. And I begin to say to myself, like, Lord, are you sure?
What does my mom always say? Like, I can't wait for you to have kids so then you can feel what it's like to be a mom. Like, she just thought like they were like payback. And
Mhm.
so it's not even that. It's like I've turned into my mom and the little ones. I think my oldest son is now like starting to like turn like have some of the habits that I have. And so it's like you know,
That-
they did teach me some things based on, like, how I used to put my mom through the ringer, but at the same time, I'm on the other side now looking for some of them because the reality is I have my oldest is 29 and the youngest is 7, and so I'm still being told about myself by the 7-year-old, but then the 29-year-old is actually now we're in a season where it's, he takes my advice now, he just loves his mama, and I just love me some him, and so hey, Anton.
it's we're going to talk about that, how our role in their lives change.
Mhm.
There are some mothers, some people that struggle to catch that there's a role change. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Before mom and we have to say and guide and lead and direct. But as they get older and they begin to leave the home, we have
Yeah.
to understand that now we turn into a coach.
Yes.
Yeah, because our job
Absolutely.
was not to make it so that they stay under us all the time.
Exactly.
If that's the way it is, then we've not done something correct. By the time they're 18, 19, 20 years old, they should be trying to figure it out on their own.
Like, they should wanna be around us, like, because we're cool, right? But at the same time, they should have enough life skills to be able to manage on their own if something happened to you.
For sure.
And so, for me, I think I held on way I no, I know I held on way too tight with the first 3, and I never wanted them to leave, but I also thought that they were kinda like my people to lead, and they
But
were their own people, and I had to learn that the very hard way. But, on the other side of it all, I just, you know, there's a lot to parenting and motherhood, and so, I'm excited about what we dive into today, Miss
yeah.
Amy.
Um, where would you say that you found the grace? Because we can talk about the strength. The strength comes in all the time. Where of course, I lean into God. I'm reading the scriptures, but there requires a certain grace when it comes to being a mom. Whether we're giving it to ourselves, extending it to our family, you need grace to be the type of mom that your child needs.
It comes from the burnout. It comes from that it comes from that first time that you crash and burn and you flail about and there's nothing else that you can do but cry out to God and God goes to like show you that you don't have to do all these things that society's showing you to do that
Come
his
on.
grace is sufficient and he's going to just kind of lead you to where you need to be the parent for that particular child because each child is different so you're literally like a different parent for each child even though you're just one person and so when you hit your rock bottom or hit that wall and you're now coachable and able to listen and take some advice then God trying to trickles it in through different people. He'll trickle it in through his word and just to teach you how to like calm down and give the kids some room to grow.
Because I think for me, learning that as my children got older, that I was going to make mistakes,
Mhm.
and being, um, I would say, being humble enough to go back to them and say, you know what, I probably could have done that differently. I'm sorry. That's one of
Yeah.
the biggest things I've learned with my older children, learning to apologize and go, you know what, I'm sorry. I could have done that differently. I apologize. And they've come back and said to me that that was one of the greatest things I could have done for them, to humble myself, to step back and go, wow, you apologize. And they, I love my kids because they look at me and go, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. That's the grace that we give ourselves, that to know that maybe I didn't do that right today, or I really yelled about that sippy cup that was up under the couch. Did I really have to lose it about a sippy
But
cup?
but usually, Miss Amy, by the time you lose it about the sippy cup, it's like a whole lot of other things that got you to that blow up, but it's like the kids don't care and they don't know what we go through, and it's like they just mad that you blew up. Because I have one kid who hates being yelled at, and all I used to do was yell, and
Mm.
so now I don't yell at all. If like, unless it's, like, super serious and somebody's life is in danger, there's no yelling happening over here, and so, um, yeah, my kids had to tell me about myself, the older ones, and so
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about, Marcia. That part right there, where we can even take a moment to sit down. Not where there be. This is what I used to say to my kids: you can be angry, but you can never be disrespectful.
exactly.
Talk to me about how you feel. Help me understand how you got there. I want to hear your feelings. Now let's work that out.
But, there's a whole thing about, the position or the roles that we play
Mm,
where, the humility and the grace comes from being able to sit there and listen to your kids,
come on.
be 100% honest with you and share their heart. But then you have some parents who will not do that no matter what, because they are the parent and the other person is the kid. But when your kids become adult kids and they are like, you feel like you have some type of, control over what they do when they're younger, and when they're older you really don't, so then you have to listen to what they say. But I suggest that people should listen to their children when they are younger. Let them have a voice, because not allowing them to have a voice causes so much more trauma in other areas later on in life.
It does. And I would say, for those that are listening that are in the Christian faith, something I have found, that when I'm saying to my kid, but how many times have I asked you to do that and you haven't done it yet? I've asked you to correct this. And then 9 times out of 10, when I stop talking, I hear the Lord going, yeah, Amy, how many times have I asked you to do that? And then
Yeah.
I pause and go, yeah, about that.
Ouch.
Yeah, it is, because as I'm parenting and leading them, I hear the Lord using those moments to parent and lead me. But that's when He also steps back and goes, but I've supplied the grace. So,
I've I've heard someone say that usually when you're having issues with someone, like in real life, like on a horizontal plane, uh, that usually it points to the same issue for you vertically. And so even if it's you're talking to the kids about the thing and then you realize that you kind of struggle with the same thing with your daddy. So
yes, yes, like the attitude. I think it's the biggest. When I ask you to do something, what's your attitude? The Lord's like, yeah, Amy, what is your attitude? I
yeah.
asked you to surrender something a little while ago, and I'm just like you waiting on the kids. I'm waiting on you. Where's the grace? So I've learned to give myself grace in the midst of the parenting, knowing that I won't always get it right, but tomorrow's another day. And I think it's the giving, moms giving themselves grace, especially when we live in such a culture where everybody compares themselves to the Instagram mom.
You know, I'll tell anyone, like, I learned grace from watching you parent. And so, I love the beautiful insight that you have around grace. So what are some specific ways that you incorporate faith into your daily routine as a
My,
mom?
as a mom, oh my gosh, that I cannot get up and lead my children without God first leading me. I have to go to Him and hear what He has to say to me, because what He has to say to me may not always be for me. It may be for the kid that I'm gonna be homeschooling, or it may be for one of my older children that's going to call me. And I cannot, I'm so cognizant of the fact that He made these children, He gave them to me. I'm stewarding them. And if I'm going to lead them well, I have to lean into Him first. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah, and I need the grace. I need the grace. Like, how am I talking to them? How am I speaking to them? That's not how God talks to me.
Yeah. I've been punished several times or rebuked for like just being harsh with these boys because I tell you they get on my last nerve sometimes. And Miss Amy be like, "But why are you talking to my Justin like that? And why are you talking to Chris like that?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh, but you don't know all the things they did before." And she's like, "Nope." So yeah, and even with my husband too, because yeah, I have a mouth.
And that's what the Lord goes, but did I talk to you like that? And but it took years. Don't forget, now my oldest is 33, 34. So it took
Mhm.
years to get there. And I have to make it a point to pray for me as I parent them, because also in a different season now, but even to the point of praying for each and every one of my children, because so many of our kids are fighting battles we know nothing about.
Absolutely. That's a whole other podcast.
Yeah, fighting battles that we know nothing about. And we have to understand I'm not the know all, be it all.
Yeah.
And what is the quote that says most parents are as happy as the most unhappiest child? That's
Mm,
what are doing. Yeah.
that's deep.
Yeah, if the kid is unhappy, then oh my, I base my mothering or my parenting based on how my child is doing when really, no, God, you helped me, you created them. As a matter of fact, as much as I question it, you gave me that particular child because you knew how that child would help develop me.
Oh yeah. And so um in everything that we do kind of like in our house, I'm always pointing back to relationship with God. And so relationship is huge for me when it comes to my walk. And so I'm always trying to teach my kids relationship over religion, like relationship first. And so, well, you
Yes,
see how we just had this conversation, and are you having the same kind of conversations with God? And I think I one of my sons was asking me, the older boys was asking me a question about something. And I'm like, well, what did God say about it? Like, you called me for advice. Did you ask God first? Like, start with that relationship. And
yes.
so, yeah.
And I think the biggest one is when they get older and they're outside of our home. We've done the best we can, and we're still like, oh, but I gotta fix it, or I gotta tell them. And the Lord gave me something years ago with my older children. He said, Amy, and I kind of took it to myself, and I went, you know what? They're just working on a testimony.
Mm,
They working on the
it's
test,
true.
right? They
Yes.
they working on it.
I don't remember who it just was viral on social media recently, and I don't can't remember who it was. They were saying that the Bible says that we're supposed to train them up in the way that they should go. Once they get old enough to go out and do live life and be an adult, we're not responsible for it after that. Like, not it, but responsible for managing their situations after that.
There it
They'll
is.
come back, but they'll have that foundation,
Yeah.
and so that is what has kept me from constantly micromanaging the older children's lives.
Yes, and realizing that I can't. I'm now a coach because they're older, they're married, they have their own children. My position is now changed. I'm still your mother where you respect me, but
Mhm.
you have to understand that you're an adult and I have to respect the position where you are. And now I just sit back and I coach and I gently lead, because we also live in a society where I mentioned before where people want to compare their mothering, like, oh my gosh, look at what she's doing with her kids. And
Social media.
yes, and they're over there, and oh my gosh, her kid is already rolling over mine. Oh my God, you don't even set up. And no, don't.
For me, it's the birthday parties and the Christmas and things, and I'm like, I don't parent like that. Like, we
Mhm.
gonna have a real big party every 5 years, and then some small celebrations in between, and then we don't do Christmas gifts, and so
Yeah,
it's kinda polarizing with our family, but oh well.
yeah,
I teach them the
works.
message.
Yes.
Yeah.
What you have to say is, Marsha, how has God told you to raise and steward the children that you've given? And I
Yeah.
have to and pay attention to how God's told me to steward and raise the children that He's given me. Because comparison, people say comparison is the thief of joy. No, I believe comparison is the thief of your peace.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
If I'm comparing, oh my gosh, look at her kid. She's in honor roll, doing all the things. I'm like, listen, I bought a bumper sticker. My kid beat up your honor roll kid. So there it is. But learning to find the joy and celebrate what your kid is, what your child is good at. because your child may not be good academically, but they may be the one that can take a whole computer apart.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
Micah.
yes, because and you sit there, we also live in a society, Marsha, would you say, where people have minimized the importance of moms? Mm.
Long, awkward sigh. And
Yeah.
so you can tell when that is the case, when moms will go out of their way to do all the things for their kids, and the dad, like, changes a diaper, and they're like, "Yes, he's amazing." And I'm like, "What do you mean? Like, mom kept everybody alive for X amount of years, nobody has broken bones, like, everybody gets to school, and they're bathed, and they're clothed, and they look decent." And then all of a sudden, dad, like, drops a kid off to school, and he's amazing. He's the best person. I'm like, "What do you mean?" And it's like, I remember the commercial that came out years ago for Mother's Day where it was like a job interview and they were going over all the job description. And it was the description of about 8 people. And they were like, this is the job that your mom does. It wasn't until then that it really started to click with people. Like when
Yes.
my husband thought that I was a stay at home mom and he thought that was nothing until he had to stay home with these kids. And then
Yes.
he saw that what I did every day. And I was like, Lord, it's not for the weak. I tell you that.
Not for the faint of heart,
Yeah.
because a job that is endless. Because sometimes if you think about it, Marsha, when you say I'm going to bed, you're going to bed may look like, let me check the back door, make sure the dishwasher's turned on, take one more load of clothes and put it in the machine, close the dryer, check the front door, make sure they straighten up the mat inside of the bathroom, make sure the computer is closed off, make sure their list is ready for school tomorrow, go in the
Mhm.
bed. It's never a, okay, I'm just going to go to bed. It's a laundry list of things.
I remember my husband told me, we had this lovely argument, it might have been in year 3 and of us being married, and he told me that I was asking him to do too many things when he was home from work, and I said, but he was off. It was his off day, and he says, "It's my off day. I'm not doing anything." And I said, "What do you mean? We moms don't get off days. Like,
Don't get
you're
off.
off from work. You don't get off from home. Like, the kid things still have to happen." Like,
Mom's
yeah,
always being.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I look back and at now that I'm a mom, I have older children, and I'm thinking back to all the things my mother did, all the tasks she carried, and the
yeah.
way she felt about things. And I'm like, wow, what an incredible job she did as being a mom, because you never turn it off. You never stop worrying about them.
No, never. And I feel like society standards of like what a good mom is, like it fluctuates, but the impact of like a mom's influence and love on their children is timeless and invaluable.
There it is.
Yeah.
That right there. I so agree, Marcia. Even with to the mom that's feeling inadequate, that maybe, I didn't get to the game, or I had snack day and I forgot the chips. Yeah, tomorrow's another day.
Yes.
There's do-overs. Yeah,
Mhm.
learn to give yourself grace in this season. To the moms, to the mentors, the grandmas, the aunties that are standing in. Listen, we see you. We see you. We're celebrating you. Don't be so hard on yourself. Take a moment to breathe,
Absolutely. You
right?
know, when I was high functioning in my anxiety and I would do I would do all the things and I was just like they say anal about doing certain things, like if it didn't happen, I was gonna have a whole meltdown.
Hmm.
I had to sit in the fact that I'm not in charge of anything. I'm not God. There's a God and he's in
That
control. And
part.
that whatever happened today or whatever happened in whatever process we were working on, it
Mm,
was supposed to happen. And whatever didn't happen wasn't supposed to happen. And so when I didn't make it to a game or if I didn't make it to a recital or something like that, it
mhm.
wasn't for me for that day. Like I have other areas where I can kind of slide in and influence my kid in those different areas and just kind of listen to their stories. But um, if I did let the kid down in that way, I have to, apologize and just,
Yes.
have grace or ask them to give me grace.
There it is. And that's something I say to people. So often we ask, or we want our kids to give us grace. We have to make sure we're giving them grace.
Yeah.
And right? Because, I think the mom wars also, the mom wars that, oh, look at my kid's party, or look at my baby shower, or look at this.
Social media.
Yes. And I tell people, your kid doesn't care about all the presents, they care about your presence.
Nope. And so we try to raise our kids based on them having the things that we didn't have when we were kids.
Yes.
And you can run your entire life doing that and giving them all the things that you think they need. But if they don't have you none of it matters.
Come on, come on.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something, Marsha. As you know, we're gonna wrap up here in a few minutes. In a few minutes, you know, I always got to tap into my scriptural coaching moment. If you were to look at the moms in the Bible, think about it. There's a couple that may come to mind. Who would you say is one that has either influenced you or you looked and gone, I so can relate to that?
The woman with the oil in the jars.
Yes, ma'am.
She gave it all for her kid. Like she wouldn't stop until she made sure her and her kid were taken care of.
Yeah.
And so even to the point where she thought they were about to die,
Mhm.
like she just never stopped.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like never stop to the point of like running yourself into the ground because that is not the message, but
That's
the faith and the hope that God is going to provide, like no matter what.
because he told us to go get
Yeah.
the job because the creditors were coming. The
Yeah.
creditors were to take her sons. And the Lord said, go get the jars and then go talk to all your neighbors. And he made a way. Her faith and her trust in God. When I look at the moms in the Bible, it's Hannah. For me,
We love
it's
Hannah.
I do. It's Hannah and her prayer, her
Yeah.
faith, her prayer, praying. She prayed for a son, and God gave her Samuel, one of the greatest men in the Old Testament. And what it says to me is the power of prayer. You
Mm.
know, because sometimes I think as moms, you're like, oh, but I have to. Fine, I'll just pray. Really? I'll just?
Yeah, I think I heard somebody say like every time something happens that people are like all I can do is pray and it's like that's the one thing you can do that will work.
That part there. All I can do is pray when nothing else
Please do.
when nothing else has worked. And I said to so many women, you know, like, oh, you know, well, I didn't have a mom that was present. I didn't have anybody to help me or to coach me. And there isn't a manual. No, there's not. There's not a
Even though we wish there was.
yes. But I've also said to some women, don't let your highest goal to be better is to be better than your parent was. No, ask God to help you be the parent that your child needs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%.
Yes, because he knows the temperament, he knows the characteristics, he knows exactly what that child is going to need. He knows what they're facing, the battles that they're going through that they've never said anything to us about. So,
Yeah.
to the moms, today I will go back and know that you are celebrated. Your work does not go unnoticed. We know that it's tireless, it's endless, and we celebrate you today and we thank you, especially to those that are showing up in a role where you really don't have to, but you're showing up anyway. Those that are mentors,
Mhm.
right? That,
To all of our mentors in our program and Hope for Her, thank you.
yeah, because it's not easy. And to those that are missing, that will be missing their mom this holiday season, you know what? Our hearts go out to you as well. Just know that as scripture says in Psalms 34, that we serve a God who's close to the brokenhearted. And he's close
Yes.
to you in this season as you're grieving and you're missing that. And maybe you didn't get the mom that you wanted, but just know wherever there's a gap, God will fill it up.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right?
my growing up, my mom wasn't like we weren't the closest. She kind of struggled with a few things, but I have several people who act as moms, and so this week I actually get to go spend time with my bonus mom tomorrow in Fort Myers for a few days, and so I just thank God for always filling in the gaps with women who could mentor and love on me when my mom wasn't able to. Now my mom is able to, so I will be in her face all day Sunday.
Giving her all the love. Listen,
Yes,
as we get ready to close, listen, we want to remind you of the immeasurable worth and significance of motherhood in the kingdom, in the earth today, that despite the voices that try to diminish your role or that it's not important, it's not significant, it is. It is because you are raising probably the next world changer. Don't miss the days
yes,
of present in their lives. Maybe the next president, maybe the next inventor of an Apple product. You don't know what it is, but don't despise your small days. There's always hope. There's always encouragement. Keep getting up and showing up. And happy Mother's Day, ladies.
happy Mother's Day.
We celebrate you.